Let's go Houston Texans 30, Pittsburgh Steelers 6. Texans move to 2-2. Big home win here for PFF Bobby.
PFF
Over
Bobby.
the Steelers.
Let's go.
Steelers fall to 2-2.
Bobby is experiencing the roller coaster of reactions from games. He's 2 weeks removed from people hammering him for passing all the time because they got in a big hole early, and now people are like, "Can you come coach the Falcons?"
We've heard, yeah. We had people trying to pass messages along for Bobby to go coach. Another great game for C.J. Stroud. Official stat line: 16 of 30 for 306, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Had the 52-yarder somewhat late to Nico Collins. Nico Collins had 2 touchdowns. The beginning of the game, the Texans ran like 97 plays in the tight red zone. It looked like they were there forever due to penalties and everything. But yeah, man, Houston controlled this game from start to finish. On the other side, Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett, another game underwhelming, leaves with a knee injury. And Pittsburgh, I mean, I don't want to say we should have seen this coming, but if you're analyzing Pittsburgh's offense this season, if you take away a couple 70-yarders, right, a couple big plays, very ineffective. Like, this was much like other weeks minus the 71-yarder that, put them on the board.
I mean, we basically did, that was the implicit suggestion of, that doesn't work, right? Implicit suggestion. That was the implication of what we were saying, which is this is a bad offense that for a couple of weeks had managed to, an individual had overcome that by breaking out a big play, and that had been enough to win those games. And if you looked at the weekly joke at this point, the adjusted scores from the nerds had suggested that Pittsburgh had won a couple of games that they really had no business winning, right? Now, the reason that is a thing, the reason that the nerds are interested in the adjusted score thing is that probably has some predictive power as to what's going to happen in the future. If you keep winning games that you're not supposed to, theoretically the pendulum is going to swing back in the opposite direction at some point, and you will catch your just rewards for what you will reap what you've been sowing, which apparently is worse than the results you've been getting, right? And that's like this game. Pittsburgh didn't find somebody to overcome the crappy offense and win when they shouldn't, and therefore their offense basically got nothing done all game.
Pickett was errant on a pass outside the numbers, and it got me thinking. I haven't seen him throw the ball very well outside the numbers whatsoever. Looked it up. Any QB over 30 attempts outside the numbers, at least 5 yards down the field. Pickett's got the worst grade in the NFL. He's about third worst if you change the sample size, but it's been bad. And sometimes it feels like that's just an accuracy thing. It's an arm strength thing, but there's just like he's off. Like the number of passes that he throws that just don't have a chance, or the angle's off and it ends up out of bounds. So there's something with Pickett, to me, the inability to throw the ball effectively down the field. I think the whole scheme issue is a thing because, again, Pittsburgh's got good playmakers that they can lean into. But Pickett had an early interception, great play by Steven Nelson to go up and get it down the field. That was a middle of the field throw. It doesn't really matter. It was bad.
I mean, he mossed. Yeah, Steven Nelson mossing Calvin Austin on a post deep down the field. Like small DB mosses small receiver.
To me, maybe the most impressive thing about this entire run between friend of the show, PFF. I don't know if he's not a friend of the show.
He has to be a friend of the show.
He hasn't been on the show.
He's not friend. No,
he's been on the show.
He's not a friend of the show for the same reason that other people are friends of the show. But he has to be a friend of the show, having been,
He's our friend.
Yeah,
we're in text chains with him. Between PFF Bobby, between C.J. Stroud, is navigating this injury-riddled offensive line because they did it again. The tackles were okay. The interior was outstanding in pass protection. T.J. Watt, I mean, I know the Pittsburgh media people that criticize us don't watch us, but if the message gets to them, if you're going to write an entire article on how PFF grades are trash because T.J. Watt affected every throw against Jimmy Garoppolo the other night, then you should write that same article and now say that T.J. Watt had no effect on the Houston Texans because the defense didn't stop, other than a few field goals, didn't stop Houston, and T.J. Watt didn't have any sacks. I mean, he did force an intentional grounding, but that doesn't matter.
Well, that
TJ
certainly doesn't count. I mean,
doesn't count.
That's in the
I don't see that in the stats.
Right, that's in
anyway.
the Myles Garrett bracket of. I don't see that as a sack.
So I expect the same energy from Pittsburgh media that TJ Watt didn't show up this week. No, credit to Houston, man. They've been doing a great job keeping CJ Stroud clean, and then Stroud playing under pressure when he does have pressure has been way better than what we saw at Ohio State.
I mean, George Fant and Austin Deculus as a tackle tandem not being a massive problem in this game going up against Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt is, I think, a fairly unforeseen development for that Houston offense. Like, that would have been, going into this game, a huge red flag as a potential problem for this team. And yeah, CJ Stroud has been way better under pressure late in the down. I do think, remember, one of the weird characteristics of this draft was how everybody with a flaw seemed to go to the perfect team to make it not matter.
Yeah.
So CJ Stroud goes to the Houston Texans where, I mean, PFF Bobby, in addition to being friend of the show, friend of us, he's also coming from that Shanahan coaching tree that right now is crushing the league, right? The Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, like everybody, I mean, Matt LaFleur, everybody from that offense is crushing it right now. So you're like, that is the perfect offense for CJ Stroud to go to because number one's going to be open most of the time. And whatever you say about Stroud in college, he could hit number one. Like if his job is to drop back and literally just run the play that's called and fire the ball in the direction of his number one read, that's good. And, I mean, you only have to look at that drive where they spent like a half the day in the red zone. Bobby dialed up a touchdown like 3 separate times, and they kept taking it off the board, right?
I kept writing down, taking notes, like, hey, Stroud, scramble touchdown, nice job. And I look up, it's gone.
Right, like
then
a run for a touchdown. Then he gets a screen for a touchdown. They're like, nope, illegal man downfield. And then they get slightly bailed out by a defensive pass interference to give them a new set. Finally gets the touchdown. But, like, that combination is doing a really good job. Yes, C.J. Stroud is doing fantastically. But Bobby is also dialing up number one being open, you know, a lot of the time. And that, it's not just a C.J. Stroud thing, but you look throughout the league, there's a lot of those combinations where somebody's flaw, potential flaw, is being very well masked or complemented by the coach and the scheme or whatever they're asking to do as well. And it's not just, you know, rookies this year. It's that combination of Shanahan and Brock Purdy. Like, it's that meshing of player and coach that's having this effect.
I don't know if you want to spend Wednesday going over all the rookie quarterbacks. We could talk about that. But for Stroud, I think he's getting rewarded for being so mechanically sound.
Yeah.
We talked last week about hitting that second read, like resetting his footwork and hitting that second read. Even just yesterday, keeping the ball ready to throw when he's scrambling. It feels like Stroud is being rewarded for having the best mechanics in the draft. And again, what we said was, if you give him a good offensive line, you give him some open receivers, that will be the best. He'll have the best chance to succeed, especially early, because of his accuracy, because of the mechanics, because of what he brings to the table, and we're seeing that through 4 weeks.
Just a contrast in terms of what I'm talking about, specifically that kind of first look thing, right? When Stroud is throwing to basically his first look, his first target, he completed 10 of 19 passes for 173 yards, so 9.1 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 119 yesterday, right? The Steelers combined, let's put Pickett and Trubisky together, basically the same amount of dropbacks, 19 attempts as opposed to 20. They completed 10 of them, so broadly speaking, the same number as CJ Stroud. Theirs went for 78 yards and a passer rating of 41. So, I mean, it's not as simple as that, but I think that's a fairly broad brush approach to, you got one offense that's doing a really good job of scheming number one open. You got the other offense that's doing a really bad job of scheming number one open, and those are probably two ends of the same spectrum, but that's part of why you've got one quarterback looking really good and two other quarterbacks looking like crap.
So, second straight win, right? Last week was, second straight win for the Texans. Don't forget, DeMeco Ryans is the head coach, and he's on that side of the ball. Second straight week, a good defensive performance. Last week was against Jacksonville. This week against the Steelers. The pass rush was pretty good. Will Anderson's winning reps. Will Anderson's going to show up on the stat sheet a lot in the coming weeks here.
Whole division is 500 now, by the way.
Yeah. How hard could it be? It's a battle now. Texans are in the thick of it in the AFC South. Got to be impressed by what they're doing.
They're also the top team in that division in point differential. Everyone else is either +2 or -2, and they're at +17.
Oh, look at that.